So he gradually develops as a complex personality, is sad and scary, and he also has really good motivations. He's a trained SEAL, so he quickly, of course, acts paranoid. I mean, if you've been in wars for a long time, that's overwhelming. But I just keep talking about it because it's kind of interesting. And why are people asking me if I need help, if I want any advice, or if I need some pills? That's ridiculous. Why would I need help? But, and by the way, I'm busy now. I'm going to have to end film Master Adam. As he sees things with fear, and he, as a sub crashed, assumes it could be Russians, especially with suspicious beings around, and Russian subs nearby, so logically he becomes paranoid, and when he sees weird aliens that is thrown to him, he views them with fear, and with a little justification, as he started looking at their nuke, and he therefore assumes they must destroy them, and he stops the crew who want to get in his way, as he thinks they don't understand the dangers, and they mistreated him, so he doesn't listen well to them, and he only listens to his commanders who he's cut off from, and his paranoia and closed offness is worsened by the high pressure nervous syndrome, so he has believable human motivations to try and kill the aliens, to protect mankind, and to kill the crew if necessary, as they are interfering with what he sees as a matter of national security. So his motivations make him insane but tragic, because he thinks he was doing the right thing. I can also really relate to him. You see, for 8 years did my OCD, I had stress, and that caused my hands to are shaking, and I totally just couldn't handle life, and that's why I long for a friend, yet there's no one out there who understands you. I felt so hated, so I hated back, but unlike Coffee, I'm not tragic. Don't you even think about sympathizing with me. I will cut off your balls, and your ass, and your hair, but mainly your balls. Also, a really nice twist on this villainous character is that he tried hard not to kill any innocent people. He just wanted to kill the aliens, but he at first just has Lindsay escorted out, later has her and the crew locked up. It's only when Virgil sneaks up on him that he tries to kill him. I mean, what a wuss. I was right to find. First John Doe, now this. Also, he has a big part in the story. He's really crucial, causing the crash, wanting to nuke the aliens, fighting Virgil, crashing their sub, and forcing them to go after the nuke. And the twist of him trying very hard not to kill someone is similar to the twist in Terminator 2, where our main characters, instead of trying to have a high body count, killing as many villains as possible, tried very hard not to kill anyone, except for the T-8000, a very smart twist that little Jimmy comments on in his very brilliant review of those films. And as The Abyss came before Terminator 2, this really laid the basis for the twist, and was even more original, as in this case it had a villain who didn't want to kill people, he just wanted to kill the aliens, and therefore had to be stopped, and therefore heroes actually tried to kill him even more, which was very understandable and justified, but still made for a very tragic and complex twist on the whole event. And the minor characters also show clear personality, like in many camera movies, like Sonny, who's very sad to lose his wife, yet hopeful and also somewhat lazy, and the SEALs. For example, the SEAL who betrays Coffee is responsible, sane, and grateful, yet calm and professional about the breathing fluid, and self-minded. And the other one is advisor to Coffee, yet follows him in his crazy plan, and he's cruel, putting the rat in breathing fluid, but is also very caring, being glad to see that he, as well as his friend, made it out alive at the end. So the characterization is all around fantastic on all fronts, but what is also really important is that besides a good plot and characterization, the film should convey meaningful themes with both of these elements, both the plot lines and the whole event-based elements, as well as the character. Emotion-based elements should have a deeper philosophical meaning that makes them more than just a sum of its parts. It makes them more than just a series of events or people with emotions, but also give them a higher meaning that make them meaningful as a whole. And this film certainly does that. It has a higher meaning in both its plot lines and characterization, and they all add to multiple themes that are smart and complex on many subjects. There's a really deep and smart theme about betrayal and manipulation, as well as abusing people, what distrust can do, and how using people who work for you and betraying them leads to problems that gives meaning to the whole conflict with the company and the SEALs. The company tells them to drop everything they are doing to help the military, and they are secretive about the actual plans and dangers involved of the Russian threats. For example, they are using them, showing individuals are often sacrificed for larger causes, and that this is done while keeping people in the dark, thereby using people as tools. And the company is threatening the lives of the crew, and Virgil says that when it comes to the life and safety of the people, there's him and then there's God, which really shows a good leader will not use his team for a higher cause, that he will really care about their lives. And they bribe them into by offering 3 times the money, but soon it turns out that they can be close to radiation, showing that often when people are manipulated, this is done by satisfying their greed, even though this risks the safety of their lives, and that is of course what matters. And we then see also that Coffee immediately starts just bossing them around without any concern for their abilities or needs, showing also that often superiors often only care about those above them, but treat anyone under them just as assets, that people are supposed to blindly follow orders. And this is perfectly highlighted by him saying he has no time to discuss anything, showing that often superiors only find the final goal to matter. And this is developed further when we see that there were Russian subs nearby, showing that when dangerous situations are downplayed, they can in actuality be incredibly dangerous. And also, as Hippie mentions, there's nothing guaranteeing your safety, as if something goes wrong, it is just covered up. And this is shown even further when the military orders them to take a sub and retrieve the warhead, which backfires as it crashes the rig. And Coffee even mentions he was under orders, and this perfectly showed that not being open enough can backfire, and also that mindlessly following orders can be wrong. And then when they are stuck and Coffee gets paranoid of the aliens, it shows Coffee still trying to command them, and then we see they don't list them, as he doesn't at all care about them, showing that abusing people can backfire. And Virgil manages to save their lives by commanding them properly, and by being kind, causing them to stabilize the situation. He's a kind leader, like my friend Adolf. He did care about his soldiers, till he started executing the disabled ones. I knew he shouldn't have had his own doctor who gave him drugs. Just look at what happened to Elvis. Why are you watching this review? I just compared Elvis to Hitler. Someone shoot me already. For fuck's sake. But we also see that Coffee slowly loses it, which even more shows how dangerous it is to use people and just mindlessly follow orders, as when people use you, they can place you under the command of unfit people, who you don't trust and who therefore you don't trust you, which can result in them betraying you, like with Coffee, who secretly starts preparing a nuclear weapon after he thinks the aliens are Russians, and it can mean that your superiors are insane, and that by following them blindly you are doing insane things, and this is shown further by how Hippie spies on Coffee, then they discover he has a nuke, and he then has Lindsay grabbed and they almost fight, and he then spies on them using the cameras, showing that you shouldn't ever involve yourself with distressful people, as it leads only to escalation. We see this also then when Coffee has them locked up, he's going to detonate the bomb too quickly, thereby killing them all, and make war upon the innocent aliens, and one of the SEALs helps them and is therefore not kidnapped, and takes Coffee's bullets, as he realizes they would otherwise die, and they would make war upon innocent aliens. He realizes the importance of the people involved, and this allows them to take out Coffee, as well as saving themselves and the aliens, showing that being loyal to people and being responsible with other lives is the right thing, and will also cause them to help you. Totally right. No, I agree with that. I'm not cruel to those in my team, I'm loyal to my group. Now I know what you're thinking, isn't that fascist? Well, thanks for ruining it, Adol. So this theme was very well demonstrated in Deep, and it is inspired by the themes and the Alien films, but it added the original twist of showing how some people can be loyal also, and also the escalation of mistrust. Also, this is a very wise theme, as indeed you shouldn't lie to people, as this will probably escalate, as they won't trust you. And this can also lead to anger and betraying each other, and some leaders can be insane. That's why you should never blindly follow people, and you should never let your safety be bought for money, as it is the most important thing you have. And indeed, if you're honest to people, they can be honest to you, and being a kind leader can be rewarding. And also, indeed, it is dangerous to work for operations under authorities, as they can always lie about what happens to those involved. And another really deep and smart theme is that of human aggression and nuclear destruction, which, by the way, isn't politically correct. Yeah, I'm saying that, so that's all the argument I need on that. They show that submarine hears the aliens, but they assume it is a Russian, showing that people due to fear and war think in paranoid terms, only knowing their old enemies, not being open to new ideas. And then when the sub crashes, they hire the crew to help search for survivors while actually having a secret agenda, preparing a nuclear warhead in case the Russians come. And the secrecy, as discussed in the previous theme, shows that when people are paranoid, they end up being secretive to their own side, which increases hostilities, and by them becoming fearful of the Russians nearby, it shows people coming to quicker conclusions due to fear. And as Hippie mentions, anything can happen to them with a crashed sub. There are immediately 2 Russians nearby, showing that people can often become in danger due to a war, as when they are just in a position of weakness with a crash sub, they can be attacked, and when you happen to be in a difficult situation like close to Cuba, people can immediately become hostile. And they show that people don't like to think about it, that when it happens, that people often are powerless, as a lot of people in the news say, to do something about great scale aggression, and they immediately assume that the alien that one of the crew members saw was a Russian, and they act endangering the whole crew, showing paranoia causes people to make rash decisions. And also after this, when they are stuck, Lindsay sees the aliens again. And she assumes they are kind and says she cannot explain why, but she feels they are. And Virgil asserts he cannot go on a feeling and feels as though he has to justify himself to the crew and Coffee, showing that in suspicious situations people automatically act in fear and believe in guilty till proven innocent, and that optimism needs to be justified. But Lindsay asserts that they have to look with better eyes than to just see hate and fear, which really conveys the theme. You shouldn't automatically assume fear and hatred, as that is often what you will then get as a result. And also she asserts that we see what we want to see, showing we often believe in hatred because we want to hate. And also we see that cruelty will often extend to the people around us, as Coffee in his fear mistreats the crew, bossing them around, causing them to hate him and to then become even more frustrated. And we see that he also goes so far as to arm a war at, showing that people sometimes use too extreme measures during wars, as we see that he wants to force the crew to follow him in this, showing people are often forced to join in wars. And also we see that Virgil, by assuming the aliens are evil when he sees they aren't Russians, that people often translate the fear on anything necessary. And we see that he then goes so far as to lock the crew up in spite of it being their rig, and we see that he then threatens his own life and the others by having a nuke detonate too quickly. Also really conveying they are threatening their own lives, showing war can lead to self-destruction. And also by Coffee and one of the SEALs not listening, they really show a desire for blood that is often very blind. We really see that a desire for blood is often blind and mindless, and so they have to stop Coffee and use violence for that. So violence is acceptable, you just need to do it on those that start the conflict. These elements have strong historical parallels, like taking out the instigator of a conflict is what they should have done with the Four Crusaders, who plundered Constantinople. That was wrong. Or hurting our fellow Christian brothers. I loved it, of course, but it makes for a good parallel to this message. That was an unnecessary conflict, but I still loved it. And you had a good example of people not listening, like the Crusaders disobeying the Pope. Oh, okay, then it's wrong. And also escalation and mistreating of the innocent we can see in a similar time period, like the Byzantines mistreating the Jews, who were just innocent bystanders when their actual enemies were the Muslims who were conquering their territory. Also, of course, one can see the poor listening in the Eastern Orthodoxes who mindlessly assert the Pope does not descend from Peter. Yes, I'm still on that. Also, we see them taking out Coffee and showing sometimes killing someone aggressive is necessary, like those Eastern Orthodoxes, which is true. And then they have Virgil disconnect the bomb and he goes down sacrificing his own life out of belief in saving the innocent and his wife and friends. And the aliens save him and are open to him, and they show they understand us and seem to want to destroy us as we can destroy ourselves through nuclear weapons, which is possible as they are destructive weapons, and they show they believe we can do this as we have been violent, showing many examples, and not just the West, proving this isn't PC. It is about humans, their violence in general. The Cold War made for the best example, but they don't do it and show it is because Virgil was a kind human being and they just want to send a message to us, not to hurt us, but they just want to show the message that we shouldn't hurt each other, but they want to leave us alone and not to force these things upon us. And people say this was too extreme, showing that we deserve to die, but they were merely showing how we could destroy ourselves. They mostly left us alone, and they say it are just suggestions and did not try to control humans, and it condemns childish fighting. And people say this violates our free will, but unlike in another sci-fi movie that will never be discussed, and one that tries to discuss it will meet my aggressive side. Yeah, you don't want that to happen. You don't want to meet my aggressive side, because you haven't seen it before. Or do you want to meet it? I want you to meet it. It will be fun. Very much. They don't take away our nukes, they just send a message. People also complain this film wouldn't be subtle enough. Well, Terminator 2 is considered a fucking classic! As is Goodfellas. Well, actually, what is subtle about it is that they save Virgil and they do not condemn them for killing Coffee and appreciate the sacrifice. But why? Well, they show they don't kill humans as Virgil was kind, showing that each human being deserves to be judged on his individual actions and that some of us are good, as Virgil was, but some were bad, but not all, and it shows we have the potential to grow. Sometimes violence is necessary, as they did kill Coffee. That is why they didn't also just show the scenes of World War II or even much of the Americans in Nam. Yeah, don't get me started on that. We defended allies from the commies. That is loyalty. They also show we have the right to free will and defending ourselves. We should just work on more often making wise choices, and they just make suggestions. And also subtle is that they show just through actions that Coffee, by ordering them to prepare to fight the aliens, he assumed that they were evil. He was thereby forcing people into a war, and that this led to them being paranoid even towards the crew, which was shown just by them betraying each other just through their actions.